Hello! Playing4Karma here with a new video. With the Kanto expansion pack being released soon, I'm dedicating my next few monthly videos to it. Today, we're starting with the type chart, with the new Steel, Dark, and Fairy typings. In the Kanto expansion pack, alongside the Kanto type chart, we're using the Dark and Steel types from the Space World 1997 demo of Pokemon Gold and Silver. At the time, these types were still balanced around Red and Green's philosophies, and the competitive scene hadn't had much influence, so for historical accuracy purposes, it makes sense. It also helps balance the game a little bit better, particularly when it comes to Galarian and Moltres. In other words, this is the oldest possible type chart you can get for RBY. In general, these types are very different to what you're familiar with. If you just want what's there, here's a screenshot of the type chart itself. Needless to say, there's no physical special split. Get that out of here! Rather than balance around the notoriously powerful normal and psychic types, these Dark and Steel types are more of a slap on the wrist than a thermonuclear bomb. The pace of RBY is, thus, unchanged from RBY for the most part, being a war between balanced teams more than anything. Even though there are a ton of new threats, you still have your big three of Tauros, Chansey, and Snorlax doing their usual thing, and you still have your little three of Starmie, Exeggutor, and Alakazam firing off Psychics left and right. This is ideal, as the Kanto expansion pack doesn't want to upheave one of the most popular old-gen metagames. It wants to expand on what already exists. To this end, vanilla Pokemon didn't have their types changed. Clefable is sort of defined by its normal typing in RBY, and taking that away seemed wrong. All that being said, let's look at these types more closely. Starting with Dark, it has the following traits. It is of the Special Attack category, is weak to Normal, Bug, and Dark. Yes, Normal. It resists Psychic and Ghost. It's super effective against Psychic, Ghost, and Dark, and it's not very effective against Normal. For the purposes of KEP, it's also weak to Fairy, and the following moves on screen are also important. Indeed, Dark is weak to Normal. This makes the type probably one of the worst in the game, actually. Any Dark type in KEP is a Hyper Beam away from death. Like, no joke, most of them just fall to it immediately. It's really funny. However, with adequate support, this type can be quite oppressive defensively, with moves like Night Slash hitting brutally hard, because there's nothing to really resist them. While Tauros can swap into these attacks and strike back, their potency is not to be underestimated. The legendary bird representing the Dark type, Galarian Moltres, just happens to get Nasty Plot. This lets it spiral completely out of control with a free turn, and the Dark type firmly balances it out. Since it can easily revenge kill with Hyper Beam and switch in normal types like Chansey, it has to work very hard for a sweep, much like the original's battles against Starmie. Alolan Persian is a notable user of Night Slash, becoming a very interesting counterpart to the regular one. Bridging away from playing second fiddle to Tauros, it's sort of got its own niche going on, revenge killing slower psychic types while playing 50-50s with its own normal type Slash. After all, with no physical special split, this means that Night Slash is special, so it has physical and special versions of Slash. It's the only Pokemon in the game to be like this. Umbreon is a very interesting addition as well, being an excellent wall against the dreaded Psychic-type menace. With Fake Tears lowering special, it can actually deal with most special attackers, and Reflect can make its normal weakness surprisingly bearable. Most Pokemon end up having to switch out, giving Umbreon plenty of free turns to get up to some mischief and take advantage of the lack of recovery most threats have. It's really passive, but with teams built around it, Umbreon is definitely competitive. Steel is, strange, in a way I really enjoy actually. It's of the physical attack category, is weak to water and electric, resists poison and fighting, is immune to steel, is super effective against rock, and is not very effective against water and electric. And of course, the following moves are important. It also resists and is super effective against fairy for the purposes of KEP. Yep, it's not resistant laden at all. Yeah. There's no resistances to speak of. It's just a completely different type. But what does this fairer steel type do? Surprisingly, it's one of the best ways to handle Galarian Zapdos, a Pokemon that severely threatens the traditional Big 3 team structures. After all, you have 3 normal types, and they're all going to be weak to Galarian Zapdos, which has high jump kick, so ouch. But now that you have something that resists it like this, it works out pretty nicely. Outside of that role though, this type is far more offensive than modern Steel in nature, with Iron Head being a very painful move to deal with, given the paralysis-centric nature of RBY. However, with Steel being immune to itself, there is natural counterplay available. Let's go into the best example of this. Omega, a new sub-legendary Pokemon that you may see in the KEP trailer, is designed to be the most blue-collared Steel type available, something only really seen with Melmetal in modern generations. being immune to steel and having access to Thunderbolt, it breaks out of those Iron Head flinch locks from Pokemon like Melmetal and brings on the pain immediately. After all, it has access to Thunderbolt, which is super effective against steel in this game. Of course, it has a variety of steel type attacks itself, such as Metal Sound, truly giving you that Mechagodzilla vibe. Of course, if it isn't quite doing it for you, just explode. Thunderwave plus Explosion is a really cool combination, don't you think? By popular vote in the Discord server last year, Melmetal also makes an appearance. While it doesn't have Double Iron Bash, given the hack only imports moves with congruent effects to RBY, it sure has everything else! Thunderwave plus Iron Head is very strong on this Pokemon too, and it's got the physical bulk to really stop Tauros and Snorlax in their tracks. It even has Thunder Headbutt in case you thought your own Steel type would block Iron Head. Very powerful. One interesting change here is the addition of Magnezone. While Magneton is still mono-electric, Magnezone isn't, and this gives you a very neat dichotomy. Do you want the extra firepower and steel immunity, or would you rather stick with the regular typing and speed? I don't think this affects them too much, as they are definitely Pokemon defined by their abilities in later generations, but I thought it was a cool dynamic to come out of KEP's philosophy. With respect to Fairy, it's exactly the same as it was in X and Y, which means it's just like the modern incarnation. I'll flash the moves imported and the matchups on screen now. Fairy is a very, very weird typing in KEP. It doesn't really do much. At the time of XY's release, it was made to counteract the rampant fighting and dragon types dominating VGC at the time. With those types being extremely rare in RBY, Fairy is just kind of answering a metagame call that doesn't exist. It's sort of just, well, a regular attacking type. It tends to hit for unresisted damage and nothing else really, which is actually pretty good. Look at Ghost in later generations. Its largely unresisted coverage is very, very strong. The best Fairy type addition is probably Balumba, the prototype Baloo Pokemon. It happens to get Hypnosis, along with Stab Dazzling Gleam, backed with Thunderbolts for switches like Omegach. With Explosion as a final goodbye, it's basically a ground immune alternative to Gengar. Being the new fastest sleeper available, expect Balumba to really pile on the pain against those offensive teams. It doesn't replace Gengar though. Normal immune Pokemon are still in very short supply, so maybe you could use them together instead. Sylveon has seen some minor experimentation, mainly with Reflect plus Rest sets that can stall surprisingly well. You could see it as an echo of Umbreon, but here it takes the approach of using Draining Kiss for passive recovery as well. It can be really annoying, but I will admit that's about all it does. Just like me and my fellow trans girls. Eh? Eh? Pendragon, Helix Chamber's notable interpretation of the prototype Squid Pokemon, has also been made Fairy type. This is more of a flavour thing. We added Fairy Stab so it has something to distinguish itself with from other water types, but it's fitting for the Inky Squid, right? Anyway, it brings echoes of Victreebel in KEP, having Hypnosis and Rapper's access, as well as the standard water arsenal of Surf and Blizzard. With Dazzling Gleam topping it off, you can fine-tune your coverage to what your team desires. I suggest trying it out on Rap Spam team styles. Personally, while I'm on the fence about Dark, I very much prefer the Steel type that exists in the Space World demo. It feels far more natural than the one we have now, which is covered in resistances that aren't easily intuited. I also enjoy its consistency along with the other RBY types. Types are often weak to what they conduct here, and Steel being consistent in this is far better for the game. See Water being weak to Electric and Grass for example. It conducts electricity and is absorbed by plants, while Robotics are hindered by shorted electricity and easily get fried by water damage. Overall, these new types don't flip the Kanto expansion pack on its head, but they, especially Steel, are plenty usable too. They are perfectly in line with RBY's low power level, which is exactly what we want when we're working with a metagame as delicate as this one. Like, the best Pokemon in RBY is one that's just fast and hits hard with no settable support moves. You have to be super careful. Interested in trying this out? You can play the Kanto expansion pack OU metagame on the Dragon Heaven server right now, and join the Discord server to organise games. Click the links in the description. As for the ROM hack that you've seen footage of in this video, it is very likely to be released in December. It just recently reached feature complete status. Stay tuned! With that, it was Playing Wakama, and I'll see you all next time.